If this video finds you in the portal of the Lionsgate, you know that this is meant for you. Even if you don't see it, you can still learn great gems for this. Today is 8/8, and I thought it would be a beautiful time to do this video. So there is a game, and they made a movie out of it. It's called Exit 8. And if you are familiar with Exit 8, great. But those who are not familiar, let me give you a little backdrop of the story. Spoilers, I guess. It is basically a physical representation. It's all about liminal spaces and kind of the back rooms. So it's this idea that you can go, it's like fiction, but it's kind of built on like real life, where you can break into a space, like you can leave the physical reality and kind of enter in these spaces that kind of go on forever. So that's what like a liminal space is called. It's like an in-between point between like the physical and the spiritual, because you're still experiencing things in a physical way, but it goes on forever, and you experience more supernatural events as well. So it's kind of like that space. That's why it's called a liminal space, luminal space. It's like that space in between. So, Exit 8, they had to get, so basically this guy, it's like you enter this space. Okay, so basically it was a guy who had a decision. He had a very important decision to make. And something happened that was outside of him, that was related to his big decision, and he didn't make the choice that he wanted to, right? And he kind of had some thoughts about it, like some inner conflict, right? So then he entered the liminal space, and it was this subway station that basically you loop over and over and over again. And there was like a set of rules to get to Exit 8. 8 was the point where you get to leave, right? Hence why I'm doing it on 8/8. But it's such a great euphemism for spiritual growth and our spiritual journey here, because it was these set of rules where you had to notice abnormalities. If there was anything abnormal about it, after you loop for a certain time, like you get the hang of it, but then you'll start seeing abnormalities, right? So then when you see an abnormality, you had to turn back. And as you turn back, then it was like this sign, right? And it kept going from Exit 0 all the way to Exit 8. So there were 9 levels, right? 9 is the level of completion, is the number of completion. So that's why they exited Exit 8, because you start at 0, not at 1. So every time, you made a right decision, a correct decision, the number would advance, right? So if you've seen an abnormality, you had to turn back. If there was no abnormalities, you had to keep going, right? And it was all of these, it really was a thing where you had to pay attention. You had to be very observant. You had to be, you had to keep an awareness. You couldn't lose yourself, because he got a call. He lost signal when he was down there. He never had a signal. But I think it was like Exit 2 or Exit 3, he got a call, and it was regarding like the big decision. So he answered it, and it reset him back to 0, because that was an abnormality. He didn't have any service. So that was an abnormality. It was another abnormality. It was like another guy who kept circling, who kept walking past him, and he was like gone. It was like nothing there, Sometimes he would be a part of the abnormality. Sometimes he wouldn't, just walking past and he was just gone. It was like normal. And then it was a flashback that he was actually a person who had a conscious decision, and he ended up not trusting. So it was like this little boy who appeared, and that was a part of the big decision. And he didn't put his trust in the boy, and he just saw the exit 8, but it was something about the exit 8 that was abnormal, but he took it anyway. And he left the little boy, and something happened where, because he didn't trust, he became a part of the loop. So he was never able to leave the liminal space. So basically, what I'm saying why it's a euphemism is because in life, right, there's lessons that we have to learn, which is the abnormalities, right? As we're going through life, we'll come across things that is redirecting us to where we're supposed to get to, right? The exit 8, right? Our soul purpose, our life purpose, our true selves, our authenticity is leading us towards true discernment. Authenticity is living in your soul's purpose, living in your true purpose, trusting your discernment, trusting your intuition, and having faith and trust in the divine, right? So as we go along our path, right, there's something that happens that we become lost along the way, right? So, we call that a dark night of the soul, right? So there's this big decision or something happens that kind of sets us off into this journey of spiritual growth, of returning to ourselves, right? So we start off at 0, right? And we're building to this completion. We're building to enlightenment. So as we go along our path, you have to be very observant, the observations of the abnormalities, that is you building discernment for people who aren't for you, discernment for opportunities that aren't for you, and it's also a learning process. You're learning who you are, you're learning what is in your life, what is supposed to be in your life, what makes you happy, what makes you sad, what you like, what you don't like, right? And every time you begin to choose, something, because it showed it too. It showed it kind of what it was. It was like a looping space, infinity sign, right? Exit 8, infinity. So it all ties in. It was beautiful. So basically, when you choose the wrong thing, right? When you choose to be inauthentic, it's kind of like you loop again. You have to relearn the lesson. You keep looping and looping the same lesson, right? If you don't learn your lessons, if you don't learn, like people say, if you don't learn from history, you're destined to repeat it. If you don't learn your lessons in spirituality, Spirit will keep giving you the same lessons until you learn it. So that's where that looping, that's exactly what that looping is. And no, you may not start off from 0. And I think what's actually so beautiful about them saying that you start off at 0 is because he still kept the same wisdom, right? You still have the wisdom, right? So it may be a little bit harsh to say that you start off at 0 because you learn the same things, but sometimes that's exactly what happens. You kind of reset your progress, right? Think about the 8 exits, the 9 exits, and going from level to level. It's like building momentum, right? You have to build momentum to break through a barrier, right? And the barrier is, the barriers are the lessons. The exits are the lessons that you need to learn to move on into the next step, to free yourself from that loop, right? It's so beautiful. Like, I love this movie, and I loved what it represented spiritually. Even though I didn't see it, I read about it, and then I was seeing clips about it, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is so beautiful. I was like, this is exactly a euphemism for your spiritual growth and your spiritual journey. So you kind of start off, every time you kind of make a wrong choice, every time you doubt yourself, right? So if you think that there's nothing wrong, right? If you're walking ahead and nothing happens, right? There's no abnormalities. But it can get to a point where level 7, level 8, right? When you're just about to break through, where you begin to get unsure. Everything starts to calm down. It's not this chaotic moment where level 4, level 5, level 6, it's all these abnormalities where you got to continue to turn back. It becomes a point where you just have to walk forward, and you have to trust that you didn't notice anything abnormal. You have to trust in your journey. And this is where a lot of people turn back. This is where a lot of people make the mistake. So instead of heading forward, the other guy that was looping, he went forward and didn't notice the abnormality. That's some people's, there's like one last test. Are you going to choose what's not for you? Are you going to notice that, hey, this actually isn't the exit, right? That's where a lot of people get caught up. But some people get caught up in trusting that, yes, this is the exit. And sometimes they turn back, right? Because they're so used to pivoting, right? But sometimes the way forward is just forward. And you will lose, when you make a wrong choice, you lose that momentum. And you have to build back that momentum of trusting yourself, of discernment, of turning away from things that aren't for you and moving forward with things that is for you. And of course, there were many different tricks. There are many different obstacles, and one time, like I said, the 8 was upside down. It's another time there was a door in the middle of the doorway. It's very slight. One time the eyes on the poster was following him, but then other times it was dramatic, blood dripping from the ceiling. Then he got this helper, right? Because his decision, what he was indecisive about, was becoming a father. And what he was in regret why he entered the liminal space was there was a woman on the subway train that was being berated because she couldn't keep her child quiet, and he didn't say anything. He just kept instead of speaking up for this woman, he just put his earbuds in and ignored the situation as she was being heckled. And he regretted that, and that made him kind of question whether or not he was actually truly ready to become a father. So that is what kind of sparked his dark night of the soul, the dilemma, which started him on this spiritual journey. So his helper, his test, in a way, came in the form of a little boy, right? Which was actually destined to be his son, because he had a vision of his son, right? So many times we have a vision of what could be, of our dreams, of our aspirations, of our true selves, right? Of what we're truly supposed to have, right? And then we'll get a test. Are you really willing to nurture it? Are you really willing to do the things that you have to do to get there, right? And it doesn't mean to get at all costs, because the guy who got stuck in the loop, his was related to fatherhood as well. And he ended up leaving the little boy. When the little boy told him, hey, no, like, this is not the exit. Something's wrong. We need to go back. He left the little boy. But this guy, he saved the little boy. A bunch of water or blood or muck came rushing, and he chose to save the little boy, and he chose to get washed away. But it comes to find out that they both ended up making it to level 7, and they both reunited together. He also saved the little boy when the little boy's mother came. The little boy's, I think it was another separate little boy. It was related to his son, but he actually was his own vessel, because he ended up running. His story was that he ran from his mother. He wanted his mother to look for him. So it kind of put him into this dark night of soul, into this liminal space, where he saw his mother and he wanted to run to his mother, but that would have reset him, and it would have tore them apart, because he would have been resetted, but he would have not, but they ended up helping each other. And that was so important for him to move forward. It was a test. Are you truly ready to be a parent? Are you willing to sacrifice your needs to protect the child. And I am sweating, y'all. And I just put on lotion. I just got out of the shower. And I'm back out here sweating. I'm gonna have to hop back in because she me Christmas. It's like really humid, so it's making it more hot. And when it's really humid, you sweat more. But anyway, so that was just a really great euphemism. You know, there'll be things along the way. Are you willing to protect it? So if you have a dream or if you have a problem with oversharing, like I did, I had a problem with oversharing, where every time I would share something that I wanted to do, my dreams, my aspirations, that person would end up being successful in it. You know, they would like not have any interest in it. Then all of a sudden they had an interest in it, and then they would be successful. So that's destiny swapping in a way, you know. They would take from me, or they would just block it. It would just all fall apart, right? So now that I'm doing this, I'm very protective over it. I haven't told anybody that I'm doing this. When people ask me, what are you trying to do? You know, I'm just chilling. I'm just living life, you know. I don't let anybody see me recording. Got a house full of people and I don't let them see me recording. I'm very protective over my dream, right? So it's like, are you willing to do what it takes? Are you willing to be protective? Are you willing to, you know, still put in the time, the effort, and the energy while you're protecting this? Are you willing to, you know what I'm saying, just change your ways in order for this dream, for this aspiration to return to your true self? Because this is my soul's purpose. Are you willing to do the things that you need to do in order to move forward successfully? And that is a part of building the momentum in order to break through, in order to learn the lessons, in order to build a solid foundation, right? For stability, foundation makes 8. Child. So I think that's it. You know, this was a pretty quick one, but it's basically, you know, you loop the patterns and you have to be able to trust yourself. Make the adjustments. You have to leave regret in the past. He had to leave his regret in the, oh my gosh. He had to leave regret in the past. He had to just move forward. And then the exit 8, they walked out, you know, and he was back where he was right before he entered it. And it actually brought him to the moment before the guy started heckling. And then the guy started heckling and he took it off and he walked up to the guy, and that's where the movie ended. So he made a different decision. So that was such a beautiful, because that's what'll happen too. It'll be this final conclusion or this final test that kind of mirrors your first Dark Night of Soul test. And it's like, did you really learn your lesson? You learned your lesson, you completed it, but are you able to put that in action? And most of the times, if you have made it out, if you have broken through, you will make the right decision. So I hope this helps. Happy Lionsgate portal, y'all. Check it out, read it. You know, if you can't pay because you gotta pay for it, or if you don't have a subscription, don't want to pay for a subscription, sometimes they have like free whatchamacallit, but you know, it's, if you can't do it like me, read it. It still gives you everything that you need to know. You can look up, if you're really curious, look up some of the clips on TikTok. It was a horror movie, so I'm glad I didn't, because I had dreams about it. I was like, it kind of stuck with me. But yeah, I really hope this helps. It kind of gave you a great snapshot of your journey. It was very deep, a very think piece. And it was so great how you could see that the guy who got stuck in a loop, he had a looper too. She was a girl. And the girl actually, he never spoke to the new guy, but she spoke to him, and she ended up saying like, do you have something that you regret? Matter of fact, you don't want to leave. Why do you want to leave? You should just stay here forever. And then she started glitching, right? And it's funny that he started becoming a part of the loop. So it's people who haven't passed the test who ends up being stuck in their loop, who ends up being, like they say, NPCs, non-player characters, right? Who is stuck in a life where they're just destined to loop forever. They will actually become detractors to you. They actually become people who, they become lessons, but they can also become enemies in the way that they want to keep you back as well. They want to keep you there with them as well. So I love that they had that flashback, and that they had his own looper, but she was a schoolgirl, like a teenage schoolgirl. And she actually talked, and she was actually saying, like, you don't want to leave, you just want to stay here. And he replaced her in his loop, and she went wherever she went. And he was stuck, no emotions, he couldn't react or anything. He had no free will. Like, his free will was gone. And that is a beautiful example of what happens when people lock themselves. It's like they become spiritually locked in place. You know, a lot of people who make wrong decisions, sometimes, like, that can be their punishment, like spiritual jail. People who come against earth angels and things like that, they can be locked in spiritual jail. So they'll be destined to become a looper as well, because that's their punishment for trying to stop an earth angel on their path. They become locked in, and they become an NPC, a looper, where they can't advance forward, they can't break through. So it's so deep. It is so deep. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Mwah.